we are officially live. Today is Wednesday, July 27th. This is Reflection Artist Live, episode number 70. And we have with us today a special guest, which I'm a huge fan of, Kelly Jones. And she has been in business for 13 years now, and that is Showroom Auto Detailing, correct?
Yes, that's right.
On top of launching her own product line, Royal Reflections, which that's taken upwards of now of 5 years to get it from idea to actually market. And she has a story behind that as well. But she's what I consider a serial entrepreneur, because not only has she dived into our market with auto detailing, or the market of auto detailing, but she has a past of bringing businesses up. And also, outside of detailing, you have the axe throwing business as well. And then I think you've got some other things in your arsenal lined up. You're always doing something, which is always really cool to see. And then, of course, you're a powerhouse, as for representing the female side of the industry, or the women in detailing, I should say. You're helping lead that hugely, which very impressive. And I've always been a big fan of that, and for you as well. So tell us some background on how and why you got started in the wonderful world of detailing, so people can get to know you and in your path.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. I am so honored. Yeah, gosh, I don't even know where to start. I have such a history backstory with this thing, but I started out selling real estate back in like 1999, and then I got into the financial industry. So I was in lending for, gosh, I think it was close to 12 years. And that was my passion. I absolutely loved, that industry, just being able to work with a lot of people on their credit and first-time home buyers, and a lot of all kinds of lending aspects, which is kind of transpired into what I'm doing now. So not only with the auto detailing, I'm really trying to bring that past experience into the detailing world to help detailers with credit, and not even just detailers, anybody that is in business with understanding your credit. We have an exciting program going on here at my detail shop with the local high school. So we do a co-op program, which I love. So I work with the kids on detailing 3 to 4 days a week, and then 1 or 2 days a week, depending on the schedule. We talk business, we talk about credit, we talk about credit cards, car loans, mortgages, all these things that I think there's a missing piece in our country and in our world on the financial basics that people just don't get. These kids are getting calculus, trigonometry, all this crazy stuff that, let's face it, unless you're going into a detail or a specific industry that, utilizes that, you're never going to use that stuff in your life. But every day,
kind of engineering type category.
Yeah, but there's everyday applications that you need to understand your credit for, not only that, but credit identity theft, where people need to be keeping track of their credit so that it's not getting compromised, and, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm going in, but the lending, I'm kind of skipping all over the place.
That's
it's
okay.
my ADD going all over. That's why I have to stay busy, because if I don't, I get in this rut and it's hard to get out of it. You could see my table right now. I'm working on a bunch of different blueprints and new projects, and I love designing and all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, so fast forward. So I was in the lending industry, 2007, 2008, there was a big financial crisis, a big meltdown. I'm sure if, a lot of people remember that very, very well. So that industry started crumbling. We lost a lot of our products and programs during that time frame because they made huge cuts, and so I needed to get rid of my vehicles. I had some big vehicle payments, brand new vehicles, and, big house, the whole American dream, with the big payment books that came along with it. And I knew the way that the market was going that I needed to do some consolidating really quick, because I had my nest egg, just like we teach everybody, you need to have your 3 months at least of your emergency fund set aside. But let me tell you, you get in a financial crisis and 3 months goes by in the blink of an eye. That's not enough. So I was, recognizing this right away. So I needed to get the cars detailed. I wanted to get rid of the sports cars and the Escalade and get something more economical that I could drive all year long. And in Michigan, the winters are always a factor. Sports cars are not real practical up here in Michigan. So I called all around to try to get the cars detailed, because I knew if they had a fresh coat of wax and they just looked perfect, that they would sell a lot quicker, right? And nobody in my area was detailing cars. And I just moved to this area actually probably within, not even a year. I was really new to the area. So I ended up taking the cars.
Was it the city you were more new to, or the state, or how big of a move? Okay.
Yeah, the city. I moved from probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So I ended up taking the cars back to the other location that I was, lived in before to get detailed because there was nobody doing it up in this area. So immediately I'm like, wow, there's a need here for this. When I called all the car dealerships, because that's the first place you probably call if you're looking for a detailer back then in 2008,
Yeah.
I called the car dealerships and one of the dealership owners, he says, Kel, why don't you start a detailing business? I'll send you all my work. And I was so insulted because I wore a suit and heels every day. I wasn't going to clean any car. And to fast forward 13 years later, I'm, doing that every day and absolutely loving it and trying to train others and bring people into the industry. And yeah, so I've developed quite a passion for it over the last 13 years because it got me out of a real hard spot in my life when that financial crisis was happening in my industry. And, detailing ended up kind of being my saving grace, if you will. It was rough. It was real rough starting out. I'm sure you heard my story. I started out with a old shop vac in my garage and Q-tips and a couple old toothbrushes. And I think a lot of people start that way, which it brings me to something that I'm really passionate about right now. And I'm really struggling with. So I'm having to pray a lot about this, but I think it needs to be addressed is, we all start out somewhere. Okay. Embrace your journey. So what's happening, and when I'm in bed at night and I can't sleep, I'll get on social media and I try to catch up with what everybody's doing and stuff like that. And I started seeing some of my own pictures copied and pasted to other detailers' pages. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
that's my shop. That's a car I just did.
That's mine.
I can't claim that work. And I'm getting really built up fire inside of me about this because you know what?
See,
Don't
that's
be
why you
embarrassed.
started the axe throwing company because
Yeah.
you gotta get frustrated.
That's right.
You're like, up midnight, you see that, you're like, all right, I'm just
It's great stress relief. Let me tell you, it's fantastic stress reliever. But it boils down to integrity. It doesn't matter if you're a lender in the mortgage industry, if you're selling real estate, if you are, a car detailer, you're running any kind of business. I don't care if you're decorating cakes for a living. You have to have integrity. Word of mouth is everything. Embrace your journey. We all start somewhere. Not everybody starts up at the top doing, Ferraris and stuff like that. You got to embrace where you're at. When you're taking, you're copycatting and it's starting to really increase and I'm seeing it a lot and it's really frustrating. Not only the copycatting, copying, pasting other people's work, copying and pasting their before and after pictures to try to make yourself look like you're doing this type of work. That it's not right. That is a very, very big lack of integrity and people see it.
And it's still current in regards to that. I mean, I have, when I expanded in 2020, my shop, I added being able to use the front entrance of my building to show cars and deliver cars, which is by a main intersection. So I took the advantage of doing the red rope effect, where I took red ropes that you'd find at like a nightclub or somewhere like that, or an evening event, like dinner event, and I put that around the vehicle. And people absolutely loved it. And because it's in front of a huge intersection, it also is a head turner for new potential customers. Well, of course, I had somebody try to do that in my local area, and that didn't work out for him too well. And I didn't hate on him for it, but I was just like, really? You can't come up with your own ideas?
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. And I'm really having an issue with that. So I try to really preach integrity because it gets you to levels that you're not going to get to by imitation and copying other people. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, embrace your journey. That's my mantra. You know what I mean? We all got to start out somewhere and so that's what I'm working on. I feel like education is key. It doesn't matter. When I was in lending, that was a big passion of mine, was educating my borrowers. I never wanted to be the kind of person that would come to you and say, okay, Justin, here's what you have to do. No, there's 10 other options out there. You have to pick what's best for you. Same thing with my detail clients. I give them all their options, like here's our basic package with a Carnival X. Here's our, step up with a paint sealant. Here's into our ceramic products, and we got X amount of this. And let them make that choice, not just go to them. Okay, yep, here's what we can do for you. I love to give people people their options and let them pick what they feel is best with them, and also educating them in the process. So this is something that I'm finding that I want to bring awareness to in the industry too, is we need more education especially in like coatings and stuff, because I'm finding it in my area every summer. 20, 30 detailers pop up, you know, at the car washes and the tents at the gas stations and out of their driveway. You know, that's fine. I understand everybody's trying to make a buck, but I'd really like to see the industry going to where people are certified, or you can't buy product, period. You shouldn't be able to tell a customer you're putting a ceramic coating on their vehicle and using a wax from, you know, a hybrid ceramic based, you know, $10 McGuire's at Walmart. That is not apples for apples. So what's happening is the professionals like yourself and myself, where, you know, we've got upscaled, you know, my coatings here start at like $9.95, right? So you got the customer, the average person, they don't understand. They just hear the word ceramic and that's all they know is the buzzword, right?
Yep.
So they say, oh, she's charging $9.95 for a ceramic coating. This guy over here is charging, you know, he's doing it at the car wash for $150. No, he's not. He's not. And then they're mad when it doesn't perform and it's not doing what they think it's supposed to do.
And then they're jaded. And then they never want to go to a professional detailer.
Yes. And so then I'm spending half of the day educating, you know, trying to educate detailers and then trying to educate the consumer, you know, so it's a real battle in our industry. So I really think education is key, which is why I'm trying to go in that direction. You know, I really, that's why I love working with these high school kids too, because it starts, you know, it's got to start somewhere, right?
Their minds are little mini sponges. So they're at that inception of being able to take in all of that, and from the right person too. You know what I mean? That's the biggest key, because they could be a sponge, but they could also absorb a lot from the wrong person.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen. So.
No, but that's why, you know, you're doing the right thing by doing that. By, you know, you're able to get them in front of you and give them the right information, and probably options within that information. Let them know, if you go this direction, this is what the possibilities and outcomes will be. If you go this direction, so on and so forth.
Right, right. And we all want longevity, or we should want longevity, right? And that comes with word of mouth, integrity, always doing the right thing when nobody's looking, you know, and that it goes a long ways. And I always boil it down to any kind of business that you're in. It does not matter if you're running a restaurant, you know, or you're detailing cars, or you're into, you know, stock brokering. It doesn't matter. Integrity is the key to anything that you're going to do if you want longevity.
I agree. Now, with your early days, you know, in your financial position, in your position in life, just to say, and hey, you had to get started, you know, had you mentioned with the shop vac, the Q-tips, what was it? I mean, obviously integrity, huge, but what was it that helped you get that platform to start just slowly climbing back up that mountain and to where you're at now? I mean, the facility you have, obviously you didn't start with. So, you know, from then till now where you are with the facility you have, which is super badass, and it's a dream, you know, in regards, I mean, looking at it, what part of Michigan are you in again?
Well, you know, Michiganders, we hold up our hand because they were like a mitten, you know, so I'm way up here. So I'm still in the lower part of Michigan, but the northern part of the lower peninsula. So, you know, we got the upper peninsula. So I'm not in the upper peninsula, just the northern part of the lower. So yeah, I'm about 3 hours north of Detroit, 3.5 hours north of Grand Rapids. So.
I was just in Kalamazoo. So.
Oh yeah, so probably about 3 hours, maybe 4 hours north of Kalamazoo. Yeah, so I'm up there a little ways. It's pretty rural up here, which that creates challenges of its own. We do a lot of big pickups. We have a lot of farmland up here, a lot of agriculture. So, you know,
I noticed that.
Yeah.
Even where I was at, I noticed that. I was like, all right.
Yeah, it's truck country up here. I'll tell you, you don't see many cars. We detail my whole shop. We're doing 3 ceramic coatings, all on pickups, big pickups right now. So, you know. It's where we're at.
It's the same here in Florida. You know what I mean? It's just, they call Florida the South, but it's like just a pool of all different cultures, but there's still a huge truck community here. And we have just a little bit of everything, which is awesome. But
it's really awesome. But yeah, back to your question, I didn't answer that. So
No,
I
you're
want to
fine.
say it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, like there's days I would just sit and cry and pray, like, Lord, am I in the right path? Am I even going in the right direction? Because let's face it, I was a desk person. I sat at a desk. And so you'd go from something like that into this physical work of detailing, even a basic interior, exterior detail. You're bending in all different kinds of positions that you've never been in. And my body would hurt at the end of the day. And I was like, man, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then, when the market started rebounding, I started getting a lot of job offers back in the lending industry because I had a lot of experience and I think I was really good at what I did and I had a good reputation and it was a word of mouth thing. I'd help somebody fix their credit, get them on track to, purchasing that home that they wanted to purchase or that business that they were working on, designing a business plan with them, all that kind of stuff. And they're super thankful once they get to that end result of, buying that house or buying that business or starting that business or whatever the goal was. So then what do? They recommend me to all these other people, just like how my detailing business has grown. I try to always go over and above. I try to, always over exceed my customers' expectations if it's at all possible. And, there's once in a while you get that customer that it's really hard to please. But for the most part, that is my philosophy. And I really drill that in everybody's head that works for me and that comes to my trainings and my co-op programs and all this other kind of stuff is you want to exceed the expectation. I don't care if you're making a burger, you make that presentation to where the people are happy and they're satisfied and they want to come back again. They want to tell their friends, man, that was the best burger I ever had. It was nice fresh lettuce and a juicy tomato and the bun was so in the meat and you just want to create this experience, right? It's the same thing with detailing, like doing things like making the creative lines. I call it my artwork, just doing the neat lines in the carpet, and just like these little tiny things that is the wow factor when they open the door of their car, they're like, wow, this looks amazing, just those little tiny things that just leave that good impression in their heart, that is my goal is like, I want to bring happiness to others. And it doesn't matter if I'm cleaning cars or, I have a new venture that I'm super, super excited about, Christian-based daycare center that I'm working on right now, which I'm so excited about. It's a big need in our area. I think it's a big need in our world today, but that's a different podcast probably. But I love in the axe throwing, even I love to see people smile and have fun and be happy. We've been in a time lately in these last couple of years, there's been a lot of sadness and a lot of people
Yeah.
scared, and
Lot of
we've been living in a
negativity.
lot of fear. Yeah, we've been living in so much fear and unknown and sadness that it's like if I can bring some little tiny piece of happiness to somebody, whether it's they're opening their car when they pick it up and they're seeing these lines or something in there that just puts a smile on their face, it's just like that's it for me. It's what I do it for.
Now, for those that want to go, did you start mobile or did you have a fixed location as you began?
I started at my home garage, so I worked
Okay.
out of my house for 7 years. I detailed from my home garage for 7 years, and it wasn't never set up for a business. I didn't have insulation. I didn't have water in my garage. I didn't have heat. I had to buy a salamander heater. I don't know if you know what that is, but you put kerosene in it. It's a little heater, like a kerosene heater. That's what I had to use in the wintertime. It was awful. I tell the people that work for me now, I'm like, you don't know what much of a blessing this building is because we have heat, we have hot and cold water. In the winter, when I used to detail, winter in Michigan is brutal. So when I detailed from my home garage, I'd be able to work for maybe an hour and I'd have to go in the house and like make hot tea or hot coffee just to have my hands on a warm cup to warm my fingers up because it was awful. And that's where a lot of the tears come in. I was like, this sucks. This is not fun. This is awful. But then I was like, okay, I'm putting food on the table. I'm keeping the house out of foreclosure. I can do this. And, that's what kept me going. And then my customers were so happy when they'd pick it up. A lot of times they would give me a hug and it just made like all that pain and coldness and just miserable, like it would go away. It's like, going through, you would understand, but going through childbirth, it's all this pain. And then you get that sweet little baby in your arms and it's just like, all that was worth it. The morning sickness, the hormones, the stretch marks, it's like you get that little baby and it's like, oh yes, like the angels are singing.
That's quite the comparison, but yeah, it works for me. I mean, I've got three, so I could not relate, but understand.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, no, and that also there's a lot of heartache, and it is so nice when you have the customers that are so happy and emotionally just drawn in. They're either they're ecstatic, with happiness, or I've seen some get so emotional they cry. But
Yeah.
they're because you're bringing back. I mean, some of these vehicles are their pride and joy. They're one
Yeah.
and only. They're babies. You don't know how much sentimental value the vehicle has
Mhm.
until you get it back to its potential for them, and they get it, and they're like, and they're back in love with it again. And then
Yeah.
you're their hero, and
Mhm.
we're technically we're detailing. You know what I mean? And it's like something so
Yeah.
simple that means so much to other people sometimes. And I agree. I feed off of that. That's my high of the business, is that seeing that customer and being so happy. And it's like, all right, we hit it out the park with that one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
Now, once you got established for those 7 years and you started getting your momentum, what triggered you into wanting to go into, finding? Did you find land and then build the shop out, or how did that work in regards to that direction that you went?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. So I really didn't plan on ever, leaving my home garage. I had a big house that was very comfortable. The garage wasn't exactly designed for working out of, but we made it work, with those space heaters. And then I started mobile detailing in Florida. So I would go down to Florida in the winters because it dies down quite a bit here in Michigan, and we're very seasonal up here, and we have snowbirds. So one of my customers actually said that. He's like, I wish you could come to Florida and wash my coach down there because I hate waiting to spring to bring it back to you. And I thought, oh, the light bulb went on. I'm like, I could do that. That sounds like a win-win. I could still be a working snowbird. It's my dream to have a place in Florida, especially in the winter months. So I started doing that. I started up a little mobile business, and I got a business license down in Florida. Believe it or not, they call it an alien license, which was so crazy to me because we're all in the United States, but I had to get an alien business license because my primary business is housed in Michigan. And so in order to work in other states, I had some real obstacles with that. I had to find an insurance company that covered me in all 50 states. The company I had for my insurance was Farm Bureau, and it was a Michigan-based company, which I wasn't aware of that at all. So I learned a lot of things. And so I keep track of all these little things. And when I teach a class, I try to tell people about this. Hey, look, if you're
Yeah.
going to go outside of your home state, you need to be sure you're properly covered, especially on these big motor coaches. We were working on, $500,000 and up coaches, and you have to be properly covered. You never know when something can go wrong on one of those things. So I learned a lot by doing that. So for 5 winters of the 7 years I detailed, the 5 winters I went down to Florida. I was based out of Claremont, Florida, just outside of
Nice.
Orlando. Yep, there was there was some motor coach parks right around there, Fort Myers. And so I worked in those motor coach parks, washing and waxing coaches to make the bills, to pay the bills, because it died down so much here in the wintertime that I had to do something to make ends meet. And it was fantastic because I got to enjoy sunshine. I got to pay my bills. I was still working, it was great. And my kids were in high school. So they stayed up in Michigan at the time. And, my ex-husband helped out with them a little bit more. So, the kids enjoyed that freedom. There were some obstacles there though, leaving the
Oh
kids,
yeah.
that
Oh
many
yeah.
states away. They found a little wild streak that I think they wouldn't have found if mom was home.
Yeah, mom's out of town now.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
Yeah, all kinds of interesting
I know what
stories
we're
are still
supposed to do, but my friends are doing this.
yeah. Yeah. And as time goes on, more stories surface from that time period that they didn't want to let out. And I'm going, what?
Yeah. Hey, mom, by the way, do you remember? No, you didn't tell me that. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this happened.
And then they always throw in, but I lived, I'm fine. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mobile detailed for 5 winters down in Florida. We just did coaches. That was it. Wash and wax coaches or their tow vehicles. And then I came back to Michigan, and my neighbor, their home got sold, and we got some nasty neighbors in there. And let me tell
Oh,
you what, I had 11 acres and they had 11 acres. So it wasn't like we were right on top of each other, but they were complaining to the county constantly. Oh, all we hear is shop vacs running, and all we hear is, the radio playing over there. Cause we had played the radio, and clean vehicles. So they were constantly reporting me. So then the county got involved and they said, look, you're in a residential area. You cannot be detailing, from a residential home, you're allowed to only have 2 customers at a time, and or 2 cars parked in your driveway at a time. There was all these stipulations, and it was so frustrating because I was busy in summer. There'd be 10, 15 cars in the driveway from the car dealerships. They'd go to auction and they would just have the drivers drop them off to me, and I'd just pick away at them and get those cars back to the dealerships as quick as I could. I was working for 11 car dealerships at one point,
Oh, wow.
from my home. Yeah, from my home. So but my house sat way back in from the road. So my neighbors couldn't even see the cars, to tell you the truth, when the leaves were out on the trees. They were just nasty neighbors. So it come down to the point where either I had to give up detailing or I had to find a different location. And so I really prayed about it. And I thought, you know what, my kids were growing up, they were moving out of the house. I had this great big house and it was just me and my younger son left there. I had 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, you know. So I was like, I'm going to put the house for sale. And I prayed about it. And I said, you know what, if I put the house for sale and it sells, I'm going to build a commercial shop. And I put it on Zillow. With my real estate experience, I didn't need an agent. So I just took some really nice pictures, did a nice write-up, threw it on Zillow, and my house sold. It got in a bidding war. And this was way back in, what year did I sell that? I think 2015 or 2016, somewhere around there. And it got into a bidding war and it sold. So I'm like, okay, Lord, here we go. We're building a commercial detail shop. And so I found some property in the city of West Branch here, and I had to demo some old buildings. So we had to tear down some old buildings because I had to be in the city limits in order to be able to operate this type of business. And I wanted to live above. So if you see my business, it's like a barnuminium. So I have a full house, 1,800 square feet upstairs. I have 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, like a whole house above my detail shop. So the main floor is all commercial, and then the upstairs is my whole house. And I wanted to be able to do that because I work so much. I didn't want to have a house somewhere and a commercial shop somewhere. Plus, it was more cost effective than everything else to do it this way. So in order for me to be able to do that, I had to build in the city, and our city is 1 square mile. So there was not a lot of options. So I found a piece of property that was for sale. It had existing buildings. I bulldozed the buildings down and demoed it, leveled the land, and then built this building here. So, yeah.
Nice. I'm
Yeah.
sure, you know, with your past experience in real estate, you had some connections to make that, or at least some knowledge on what direction to go to make that happen. And that, I mean, that's every detailer's dream. Being able to build your shop is one, but to give more to that extra bonus, to have your house, your home as the second story, the second layer to that. That's, I mean, that's literally every detailer's dream. And that, you know, as a detailer who has young children and a family, you know, that might be young coming into the business, that is so super helpful too, right? If they had that right scenario, because they'd be able to, you know, talk to their significant other, work and or deal with their kids at the same time,
Yeah.
but run the shop successfully while you can send your kid upstairs to their room to do homework.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It's been awesome because, you know, even now my son, he's in high school, but, you know, if he's sick, I don't have to take off work. He can go upstairs and I can check his, you know, make sure he's drinking his Gatorade or whatever like that. And I can still be downstairs working. So yeah, it is
Run shifts.
fantastic. Mhm.
If you wanted to be a 24-hour detailer, because there's a lot of people that talk about that. And a lot of people who do that, you know, they do have full-time careers during the day. So I've seen where some have to detail in the evening hours. And that could be pretty brutal because then their lack of sleep, right? And sleep deprivation is a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
and
that's no fun.
but if you're home and it's there and you could run shifts, that'd be awesome. Not to say that's something you would do, because you obviously got a structured standard operating process, but for those out there that have that idea, go for it. You know, if you don't have a whole lot of responsibilities other than just focusing on your business, why not, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
that is cool. So how long did the build out take?
on the commercial shop, this took probably, I would say, about a good year. So I sold my house and I lived in my camper. I had a camper that I lived in Florida during the winter because that's where I'd stay. I didn't have a house down there. I stayed in I had a bunkhouse, and I stayed in my bunkhouse when I worked down there. So I drug my bunkhouse back to Michigan and I lived in that while I was building this. And it took probably pretty close to a year, maybe not quite a year, a little less than a year. And then I rented out space at a local car wash here in town, and I moved my business temporarily over there. So I never stopped working throughout the whole process. I mean, obviously I did keep income still coming in. So I leased out a local car wash and until this was done.
Very nice. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being established, at what point did you have the idea of wanting to go into dealing with products and chemicals? with the Royal Reflections line?
Well, that's another answer to prayer, because I was, I'm not a spring chicken so much anymore. And every day my hands, I'm getting arthritis in my hand pretty bad. And I'm like, man, Lord, what's my next move? I don't want to be in my 50s and still laying on the ground in my shop, waxing rocker panels on cars that are 3 inches off the ground, or polishing motorcycle tailpipes on the floor, just I wanted something to move into that was still in the field and still related. And not only that, I had a passion for trying out everybody's products. I love trying different products and see how they work and see what I like about them. So
get your hands on this, get your hands on that. I'm the
yeah.
same way.
Oh, I love it. I love testing product. And so when I met my chemist, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a dream come true. So I initially just wanted to make a car wash soap. That's all I was going to do, was just try to make one product. And I knew I wanted it to be pink and I wanted it to smell good. And, all these things that I wanted in a car wash soap. I wanted lots of bubble, and I talked to my chemist and he says, I feel like I'm going to work for Bath and Body Works. He's like, nobody really tells me they're worried about, the scent of their product and their colors. This was, gosh, almost 6 years ago now when we started making a car wash soap. And now I have 15 products. I just launched off-road lineup last year that 3 products designed for, heavy duty mud. We have a lot of side-by-sides and Jeeps up here in Michigan, and a lot of clay ground and stuff too. So it's hard to get that off without a specialty product. You can clean, say, the side-by-side wheels or something like that, and they still look dingy and dull, And so that was exciting. We just launched that. I'm still working on my marine line of products. That's been in R&D for like 3 years, over 3 years now. And it's, I like to do a lot of testing before it goes into the next step and hits my attorney's desk, and a lot of money has to start getting exchanged, So that's still in the works. But yeah, so I've had so much fun with that. And I have a huge passion for designing products that are friendly to the user. If you're detailing, 5, 6, 7 days a week, and you're using some harsh products out there. I have some lung issues that I've never had before, allergy issues I've never had before. As a matter of fact, my doctor said my liver is getting bad, and I don't even drink alcohol. I mean, I never really have been. I've always been such a professional and had kids and stuff. I don't even drink much. And you'd always think if you're having a bad liver, it's from alcohol, right? That's what I always thought. Alcoholics are who kills their liver. No, my doctor said from all the chemicals, my doctor told me, guess who has the worst livers aside from an alcoholic is a hairdresser, because of all the chemicals they're around. And now with doing all this product development and all the chemicals I'm around, I'm having liver issues because of all the chemicals I'm around. So that's become a huge passion for me, is to try to design products that are earth friendly, non-toxic, non-hazardous, that my dog can get into. I can use them 7 days a week. My grandbabies can come over and be around these products. So I'm taking huge passion in that, on creating products that still create a professional result, are high quality, but safe for the user. Because I'll tell you what, that's something that's not spoken about. It's a real issue. It's a real issue.
Yeah, no, and that's where, a lot of people such as like Rennie and people like that will preach about the whole glove situation, because if it's on you, it's in you. And, respirators and, eye protection, all those things that are needed. But, I think what it comes down to is people are like, well, it doesn't hurt now. And it's like, that's now. But what about 5 months, 5 years from now,
Right.
And a lot of people, when you see them online, especially with the coatings, right? Yeah, we haven't had anything documented in our industry yet that somebody's had an health issue with coatings. But you see all these guys laying coatings out with bare hands, and it's like, oh, what are you doing? Like, those are like some of the most aggressive chemicals. I mean, we got wheel acids and stuff like that, but those right off bat out the bottle, they're very pungent. And yeah, I don't touch any of that stuff without a glove.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in hindsight, and like I said, it boils down to education. I had no idea when I started detailing, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I was buying stuff from the local Napa, this hardcore. I was using that, like the wheel, the heavy duty stuff. I got chemical burns on my body from, chemicals getting on me, mixing chemicals and stuff like that, and not taking the time to, not knowing that it was going to do 3rd-degree burns and stuff like that. So there's a lot of a lot of things that, you don't know about, in
Yeah.
hindsight, that I wish I would have known about now, because I'm having to try to, really fix up my liver at this point because of chemicals and not protecting myself. Your liver, how your liver works, it's a filter. So I was shocked when my doctor told me. She said, one of the people, one of the industries that have the absolute worst liver is hairdressers. I was shocked, but think about what they're around all day. They're around hair dyes and perms back in the day. And I think perms are coming back out now. I took cosmetology back in high school, so I got a little bit of knowledge on, some of that chemical process. And they're breathing in chemicals with no protection either, all day long, some 5,
Yeah.
6, 7 days a week for years and years and years. So yeah, I found that really interesting. So that's become a real passion of mine with the product development, is trying to really strive for non-toxic products.
No, that's good. And there's a couple, or I should say, there's a good handful of detail manufacturing companies that do the same thing with that direction, making it eco-friendly, safe, and all those categories. But the majority, unfortunately, it's raw material and sales.
Yeah,
And
right.
and they got their recipe, their formulas, and that's that. And as long as the bottom line looks good, that's what matters to them.
Right. And I'm not going to say every single product in my lineup, like my bug remover, there's no way of really formulating that to where it's aggressive enough to attack the bugs the way I want it to attack the bugs, but still be as friendly as I would like it to be. So it's a hair over the scale to where it's not in the, completely friendly category. It's just a little bit unfriendly, but there's some products you have to formulate with such raw materials, like you said, to make the product work properly. We don't want to create products that aren't going to work just to be safe. That's not going to be helpful either. So there are a few products, but in any way, shape, or form possible that we can create a product that is friendly, we go that route, as long as it's working properly and in the way that I would want it to work. So that's definitely our first priority. But like I said, there are some of those products that you can't formulate that way without certain ingredients to make them really work.
Yeah, yeah. But
The way you want
that's keep plugging away until you finally find that one raw material that's safe. But that's the thing, you just don't stop, right? You just don't say, okay, this is what we have, this is what we got to work with. It's like, okay,
them.
let's just keep trying to find something. There's got to be something on this earth that could fill that spot to get rid of that the aggressive stuff, and put something else
Exactly.
in there that
And
makes
and
it
that's
work
what
the same.
absolutely, and that's what's taken so long on the marine line too, because we're thinking about water in the creatures in the water. We're trying to really work hard on that line for safety too, because of the obvious. Where a lot of people are going to be using those products on my boat when I'm in the water. I like to you know condition my seats, with the leather vinyl conditioner. I like to, use a waterless wash on my boat when it's in the water. So we're trying to really be sure that the products that we're creating in that lineup are going to be safe all the way around. Mhm.
Now, now that you've had this established, I mean, now you've had some hurdles along the way. Of course, this pandemic has set you back on launching products, but since you've been able to bring your products to market, how, as far as your avenues of distribution, is it something you're doing single-handedly out of your shop and online, or you have other distributors for you that you're starting to work with? How's that working out for you?
Well, it's like a newborn baby. I always try to compare things to my motherly ways. So it's still like a little newborn baby. It's trying to get to the toddler stages. So I don't want to go so fast that I make a mistake. So I'm trying to really grow it more organically. Right now, our online sales are phenomenal. I'll tell you what, I'm really shocked. We ship product every single day from New York to California to Wisconsin to Florida. I mean, we're shipping all over the country. So we have a really good saturation level as far as the visibility. And I think, again, it's the word of mouth, because we've got certain concentrated areas, like in Iowa, for example. Like, I don't even know anybody in Iowa. And we ship a lot of products to this certain area. So it's got to be word of mouth. Somebody tried something and then they're telling their friends, their neighbors, their brothers, their cousins, their coworkers. And so it's growing really, it's really cool to watch how it's growing like that. So our online sales, I would say, are definitely number one. In the number two, we've got product in a lot of stores in the generalized area, like Napa Auto Parts, some local automotive shops, motorcycle shops, you know, different places like that in the area. So we do have, you know, people having them in retail stores. But as far as getting into distributors, I haven't crossed that bridge quite yet because I'm still really focused on a couple of these other areas and making sure there's a lot of learning curves there. You know, there is a lot to learn, and every day I feel
Yeah.
like I learn something new. You know, it's a lot of learning.
Yeah, that's a whole nother space in itself. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's one thing to for the detailed services and understanding that, but the product side and distribution, that's like
It's
you
a
said,
whole
there's a
nother
whole
animal.
bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. But organically doing it, that's the thing, is that you'll build that value so much and that recognition of the brand so much, and you'll have people coming and knocking at your door asking if they can distribute for you. And I think that's what the day the light will go off for you to be like, okay, now it's time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
cool though. That's really cool.
It's
And
really cool.
a lot of people, me and you have had this conversation and where your business name, and here you are in Michigan, I'm in Florida. We've never met each other until, you know, just recently, it was like the last year or two. And we've been in the same industry, right? My original business name was Showroom Detailing Incorporated. And of course, yours is Showroom Auto Detailing. And then also me coming up with the idea of the reflection artist, the hashtag, as more of a tagline for myself that adapted into a brand culture for Buff and Shine and our pads and everything we do there. And then, you know, with that being reflection artist, you have Royal Reflections. And it's just so neat seeing that across the map, people, you know, in the same industry, we have that same process of thought process and coming up with these names. They're still unique to their own, but yet so similar, which is so
Yeah.
cool. And I always pinch myself because it's like, that's just so cool to see that happen on basically the north side of the country. And here I am in the south side. And like that, there's so many similarities there with the names and the direction we've gone. And
That's really cool.
yeah, and still not meeting each other until a couple of years ago. But you know, everything you've done has been amazing. And of course, the direction you've gone has always been super positive. And I really think, you know, to your original point when we first started the conversation with the building of the financial aspect, there's a very lack thereof in our industry. I mean, a lot of in other industries too, but especially ours, because it's such an easy entry. Like you said, there's so
Yeah.
many that pop up, and not to discredit those guys, because like you said, everybody needs to make a buck, but you know, you just can't pop up and do roofing. You just can't pop up and do plumbing. It doesn't work that way. And that's kind of
Right.
what we want. We want it to where you just can't pop up and do detailing. We don't want it to work that way. And that would
Right.
help us bring us to a next level of recognition, and also, you know, putting us to where people prioritize our services to take them more serious instead of,
Right.
you know, some customers that come in, they're just like, you just wash cars, like you're a
Right.
dishwasher or something. And it's like, that's that feeling of being disrespected a little bit. It's like not directly, but like just the way that they come across, right? But no,
Yeah.
I'm the education side. That's kind of, as I've learned a lot in my young years, getting into this at 25 and being 40 now. It's been one of those things that I didn't have a whole lot of previous education that I've been able to brag about or anything like that. But being able to get into the detail industry and learn the craft and learn the business and then learn from people who were successful and apply that in my own way, in my own style, has allowed me to kind of be able to get some time under my belt exercising those steps to a point to where, okay, now I've harnessed them to where I could now repeat that back to somebody else, and hopefully they'll be able to get some success out of it. And
Right.
that's exactly what you're doing. You're taking all that financial background and all those different paths you've had in the previous life to detailing, along with your detailing career, and being able to give that back. And that definitely helps people. It kind of helps expedite their growth, so they don't
Hmm.
have to drag their knees as hard as we did to say.
Right.
But I'm all for that, and I love that aspect of it. We definitely need more people focusing on that side of it, because I know, like, when you've talked about the financial stuff and the credit stuff, people like draw to you in regards to that. When I do classes in regards to service and pricing structure, people draw to that because the polish and paint over time, the task of detailing, that becomes the same thing day in and day out. It's just making it look good and having the integrity of doing the right steps to get to that end result.
Right.
That's that it changes with products, but the process is always the same. Just making sure the end result is to the customer's expectations. But the
Yeah.
business side, that is always evolving based
Hmm.
on our economy, based on our local demographics, geographics, all of that kind of comes together with all those variables. And that's what I think makes it more difficult, is the business side and understanding that. And I think if you harness that, you could have a mediocre business, but a damn good, I'm sorry, a mediocre at detailing, but a damn good business and really kill it. But it can't be the other way. You can't be a badass detailer and a mediocre business, because then you keep hitting the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a real problem in a lot of industries. I've seen it in lending, you know, with guys that are even builders, for example, you know, like they might be phenomenal builders and be doing these really amazing projects, but they don't know how to manage their money, and they don't understand how to keep track of things very basic like income and expenses. That's huge. It's super important. You have to know what's coming in before you start giving it out, right? Because a lot of times people start getting those big checks in and they're just spending, spending, spending. Oh, wait, I forgot to pay the bills. I went out and bought myself new, you know, whatever, clothes, new shoes, new toys, new buffing wheel, you know, and then they forget, oh, I didn't pay the power bill, or, you know, and I get people reaching out.
Why are my lights off?
Yeah, I get people reaching out to me every day, and bless their heart, I love that people reach out to me, and I'm a closed lip. I never repeat things, you know, and I really pride myself in that, and I really genuinely try to help others when they come to me with their financial situations. But lately I've been getting so frustrated because there's a huge gap in multiple industries. For example, people don't understand. I feel like when you go get a DBA, for example, you should get a pamphlet that says, okay, now you have a DBA, or you get an LLC, or you get whatever your structure in your business. You need a checklist. Okay, you need to call an insurance agent. You need to get whatever kind of insurance is required, whether you're baking cakes or building houses or detailing cars. You need insurance. You need to protect yourself. Once you screw something up, I can't help you. There's nothing I can tell you besides go get a good lawyer or something, or you're out of business. 9 times out of 10, that's what happens. If you're working on, I hate to say it, but I had a friend of mine in another state working on a high-end vehicle, not ready to do it. They were at infancy stage and they jumped into college stage. They were not ready for what service they were performing. And they, you know, bless their heart, they wanted to tackle the job, but they misled the customer. That's the bottom line. They didn't have the training, they didn't have the experience, but they wanted to take on the job. Okay. So guess what happened? They ended up screwing up big time on the job. Come to find out, they don't even have insurance. I said, okay, you're screwed. Number one, you took on a project that you weren't ready for. Number two, you're not even insured. And now you got a real situation on your hands. And this person is, you know, shut their phone off. And this is where I'm talking about integrity. Okay.
That's a
you
fake it
screw
till you
up,
make it scenario. That's what that's called.
that is absolutely horrible. And I had so much, you know, respect for this person because I thought they were coming along good. And then that happened. And I'm like, listen, you know, you're going to have to learn the hard way now, because there's nothing that can help you. You can't go shut your phone up. You need to own up to this. So you make a mistake, you need to own up to the mistake. Okay. That's it. That's integrity. That builds character. You can't shut your phone off and block the people and block your number when you got a situation, you know? And so these are things that people reach out to me on all the time. And you know what, that could have been prevented really, really easily by attending some classes, number one, before you start doing paint correction and coatings. And number two, have insurance. So if you do screw something up, you got a few $100 deductible instead of, you know, now you're looking at a $10,000 paint job, you know, instead of, you could have potentially paid a $200 deductible on your liability insurance and kept on moving forward. You know, now this is a crisis that's probably going to put this person completely out of business.
Well, I think that mindset is based on, you know, I'm going into business. I don't have much capital to start with. This is just another bill. Do I really need it? And then of course you get the opinions, right? You don't get the professional opinions, you get the friend opinions. Well, you don't need that yet. Just keep making your money until you can afford it. And it's like, no, because yes, in their mindset, it's an extra bill, but it's also like to your point, it will cover your butt in those scenarios. Now, we all hope that those scenarios never happen, but when they do, and that's the thing, is when you don't have it and it does happen, the scenario does play out, then what do? Like, you can't cry to nobody and you can't complain because it's your own fault. And at that point, you if you couldn't afford insurance, and you don't have the capital in the bank to afford to pay for the repair either. So you got a double whammy there. I mean, I just dealt with that today. We had a tint job come in we did the windshield with the clear film, and it was on a newer Porsche, and we rope it off. We do everything we can preventative to all the moisture that runs down the dash, and it's liquid, it's water, it finds its way. That's what water does, right? And it made it down to a module that triggered the airbag or the airbag light. I'm sorry, not the airbag. And so you had to bring it to Porsche. It was like almost a $300, bring it in, fix it. Guy called me up. Hey, this is what I'm looking at. I said, you know what? I apologize. No big deal. These things happen. How would you like us to take care of it? Can you hear me?
Can't hear you. Are you muted?
No, I'm here.
I can't hear you.
Let me see. How about now? I'm showing the audio on my end.
Back now. I gotcha.
Okay. What I was saying though is I had a gentleman with a Porsche. We did his windshield with window tint and the water ran down. Even though we took all the precautionary methods with the rope and the towels and all this, water still made its way. He called. He wasn't upset. He told me what the cost was. I just said to him, hey, how would you like us to do this? I could cut you a check. Or he was actually set up for, I think, 3 weeks from now to do a full correction coating and paint protection film. Or we could just apply that dollar amount that the dealership charged you to fix it to your existing bill. I said, either way, you just let me know what makes you happy. And he was like, oh, that's so cool that you back your work and your integrity. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, to me, I feel that's the only way you should do it.
Right.
And I don't know any other way. It's like, that's it. I'd rather pay that bill for the repair than pay myself at the end of the week.
Right. Right. Absolutely. It's going to come back to you tenfold either way. You're going to get tenfold back good or tenfold back bad, depending on how you handle it. And I'm a real firm believer in that. I really am a firm believer in that, but it still boils kind of back down to the education piece. So these people go and they start these businesses from their home and they don't know, they don't know that they need to get insurance maybe, or like you said, they can't afford it. If you can't afford to get the insurance, then you better be sticking with the real basics. Do interior work very gently, carefully. Once you want to get into some of the specialized stuff, I don't think you should be doing it unless you're properly insured, because things can happen. Or like you said, you have to be able to handle it like you did. You've got to be able to make the customer happy. So I think there's a lot of things that are very, very basic that for some reason they get overlooked, and it can cost people a lot. Just like paying the taxes. I made a Facebook post about it the other day because, audits are happening right now, and you got to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, period. If you're taking in money and you're a business out there, I don't care if you're doing it from a commercial location, you're doing it from your home garage, you're doing it mobile, you need to be keeping your books up. It's the bottom line. It's going to catch up with you. It's just like anything else that people do wrong. They think they're going to get away with this stuff. I mean,
no. And if you can't do it, then hire somebody who knows how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many programs out there like the URO-WOOL and the, even QuickBooks. That's, or I do things the old school way. And that's what I teach too, because I know a lot of people, I'm not even a computer. I don't like technology. I don't want to carry my computer around. When I need that thing to be working, it won't work right. I can't get service, whatever. I get so frustrated. I do old school bookkeeping. I write down, okay, you pay me $400. Bam. I took in $400 from Justin Lobato for a detail on such and such date, check number, blah, blah, blah. Or Justin paid cash, or he paid with his credit card, put the date, put the amount. Every single day we keep a little, very, very simple, super simple, but you have to be keeping track of what's coming in, and the same thing with what's going out. I don't have one right in front of me, but I usually have those little plastic file folders. And anytime I buy something, whether you go to, wherever, if I'm buying filters for the shop vacs at Home Depot or something, I get that receipt and I stick it in that little plastic folder, and my receipts are in one spot. And then, keeping track, even just on a spiral notebook of your income, what you're bringing in every day. If you're a mobile guy, you can easily buy one of these little spiral notebooks for 50 cents at the office store or whatever, and keep track of what you got going in and out. Things as simple as that. You start getting audited, you've got that basic information, you know what I mean? But you need to be paying taxes. You need an accountant. If you're running a business, you have to do it the right way, or it's going to catch up with you. And when it catches up with you, there's nobody that can help you at that point.
Yeah, the biggest thing I've heard a lot of people say is if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Right. And it's a numbers game. And that's what business is. Business is numbers. So no matter how big or small, you got to track those numbers. And whether it's on paper or Excel spreadsheet, it doesn't matter how you do it. That's your personal preference. Just do it. Well, you've had, we're coming up on time, Kelly, and we've had a wealth of knowledge. And of course, your story is always great to hear. is there any additional advice? I mean, you've put a lot of golden nuggets out there, but is there any additional advice you would have for detailers, business owners, anybody who might be listening to the podcast that you might be able to kind of help them out with just a little extra nugget of, direct knowledge from Kelly?
I guess always work on yourself. You'll never go wrong by building yourself. That is education, classes, reading books. There's some fantastic books out there and all different types of business topics. You'll never go wrong by educating yourself and making yourself better than what you were yesterday. We're always worrying about what everybody else is doing, but at the end of the day, what matters the most is building yourself and investing in yourself, and whether that be um, integrity, building your business, whatever, being a better person in general. You'll never steer yourself wrong by building yourself, and doing the right thing. I really feel like I have a huge passion for that now. I think education is key. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, but like you said, in times, everything's constantly evolving and changing, and you need to stay up with the times. You constantly have to be evolving and growing and changing and modifying and rolling with the punches and doing the best you can in order to fight through some of these economic times, like we're in right now. It feels like a relapse coming up of the '07 and '08. And so the best thing you can do is be prepared and be flexible and be constantly learning and growing yourself. And I think that's what helps get you by, and keep an open mind on, opportunities and different things out there. Never be so stuck in your mindset that you can't evolve and change and grow and be able to swing at those curveballs when they come at you.
100% agree. That was great. Now, with us here at Buff and Chine, we do celebrate every year of July with the Women in Detailing. So you are one of our highlighted guests that we had on for this month for our podcast. Actually, it's been our only podcast for July so far because it's been a busy travel month for me. But it's great to have you on, and everybody we've represented this month, including yourself. It's awesome to be able to put everybody forward as detailers, because me personally, and I've told you this before, I look at it as it's not a gender-based thing. It's more of we're all detailers in business doing the damn thing. But unfortunately, there's a very large dominant side of the industry that's male versus female. So we definitely want to get that balance up to speed. And you're definitely helping with that greatly on that. And thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate that. There's a lot of great women out there detailing, but I think they're shy. They're intimidated. They don't want to come forward, and they're doing fantastic work. And I think that, we're some of the women, out there, along with myself, we're really just trying to pave that way that everybody can, feel welcome and
Yep.
feel like they have a place, whether it's detailing, whether you're automotive mechanic, whether you're running heavy equipment, it doesn't matter. I think a lot of women are coming up in all kinds of male dominated industries, and I'm super excited about it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I like to see that trend kind of balance out, because that's something that was a thing of the past. You know what I mean? It's we're all human beings with the same abilities. So it's like it's one of those things that there's always been a dominance in one industry over another just because of this or that. It's like, no, this day and age, that's not a thing. That's no. No. And I experienced that personally because of coming up through like boxing and kickboxing and sparring with men most of the time, but then getting in the ring with some of these badass women that are way more aggressive than the men. And I'm like,
game changer.
Yeah, touche. So, well, Kelly, thank you. Hopefully I'll see you at an event soon, or SEMA at the latest. Are you planning on attending SEMA?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, thank you for being on. Again, this is Reflection Artist Live, episode number 70. Oh, before I forget, how do people find you or get in contact with you?
Oh gosh, I'm on social media. I'm trying to get better at Instagram. I'm trying to post more, so Instagram, Facebook, gosh, what else? Email, I don't know, mostly social media pages, my direct line.
What is your email?
kellyj2101@gmail.com. It comes directly to my personal line. So, yep. Or Facebook's always a good way to get a hold of me on Messenger, or through Instagram. And, like I said, I'm happy to help. I'm really happy to anybody that has questions as far as business, finance. You have little glitches here and there. I'm happy to help you before it gets to like these extreme situations that we were talking about earlier. So
And what's
yeah.
your website for your products?
royalreflections.com.
Perfect. Sweet and
Super
simple.
simple. Yep.
Awesome. Well, Kelly, thanks again. Again, Reflection Artist Live, episode number 70 with guest Kelly Jones. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon or at SEMA. And again, if you guys have any questions, especially in regards to finances, fixing your credit, she's the queen of being able to do that for you. So check her out. Thanks again, Kelly. Have a good rest of your
Thank you,
day.
Justin. You too. Take care.
Take care.